And I mean, we have quite an interesting mix today. I don't know what you think about, but it's quite a mix today of very different people, of very different competences. But that makes things great normally. Just take a seat. Yeah. And what I thought about is, and I will come back to that idea when we're at the end today, that we all, including you, Joe, certainly in Hawaii, that we are going to take over a company, an existing company, and every one of you has a role in this team then. And I think the final round we're going to make, what is your role then in this team? I don't know what company it will be. We can discuss about that. I mean, Joe, I would like to start with you here. I mean, agile is a great word, is a buzzword, and we are all using it, the community inside here. But I'm not sure that everybody understands what agile is. But give us with a few words, what is agile from your point of view, Joe?
Agile is speed of innovation. And the way Elon Musk measures agile, the way Elon Musk measures speed of innovation is how long does it take for you to launch a new product from idea all the way through launched and being used, and how much innovation was in that product. So if you can shorten the new product introduction length and increase the innovation, that's the only goal of the company. And that is the definition of agile according to Musk, pace of innovation.
It sounds actually very, very simple, but I guess that these, I would say, traditional industry we have here in Europe, that might be a little bit of a challenge. Is it normal in the US to work like at Tesla? Do other companies do the same?
Not at the same level. So Agile is extremely popular here, but even 1 year release cadence is still aggressive for most hardware companies. 2 weeks is becoming very normal for software companies, but some of them still struggle to get 3-month releases. Some software companies have achieved the goal, which is continuous release every day. Very few hardware companies have. I've never seen anything as fast as the Musk companies. As far as I'm aware now, it is the absolute extreme.
So we can take Tesla as a kind of a role model for other industries. Well, now I'd like to make a very strong change to Aurélie. I mean, if we are talking about happiness, you've heard that people working in a factory, and Elon Musk himself is going to work in the factory and doing hard work. If we look at that from the perspective of happiness, what would you say?
Well, I think that's a great way because, you know, like I said earlier, we all need to be on board. And I think as an employee, we hate to see leaders just in the office and not, you know, being part of the team and being part of the business. So I think it's a great way if leaders are starting to be in the life of the employees, with the product, with the service, because that's the only way to create a positive work culture, to all be in the same family, in the same company, right? It should be a family as well at work.
Okay, so we want to...
Kind of.
Good. I mean, the target is, and this artificial company we're sitting in at the moment, all we here, including Joe, is that we want to become world leader in our business. Lucas, if you look at your business, and if we have listened to Joe, and I mean, it was very impressive what Joe told us, the pictures we had in our mind. If we would take that into your shipbuilding industry, what would that mean? What would you have to change? Probably.
We would need to work much faster.
To let
we also attempted to go into an agile or attempt to go into an agile version, but I still try to convince our CEO that he just doesn't say, you just don't want to make any plans, you don't want to make any budget, And in the end, you just label it, well, we're agile.
Okay, good. But I know that with budget, especially with that contract at the Lake of Geneva, that was quite a hard thing of budget. And I think someone decided just to do it, and you were not able to make a budget. So probably are closer to Tesla than you think at the moment.
We applied already some agile in the development,
Yeah.
or we attempted to, because at the beginning of a very big project like a ship, you start and you know how it should look and how big it should be and how fast it should go, but you don't know where to place your electrical rack, because maybe in the end, the engine might be much bigger, and then you don't have the space there, and then you have to go over it again and over and over and over. And at the beginning, you don't know what you should do first. So you cut it down in small pieces, and you start with one, and then you try and pull what comes next. And if you do a big planning at the beginning, all waterfall, and you start here, and then you say, oh, that doesn't work, then your whole plan is gone.
Okay. Now, Stefan, I mean, you're on a high speed, and Matt, you're on a high speed too. You've got a lot of different projects and customers, including customers in what you are going to do is something challenging. And how is the process with you, especially including the customer? And how do you always make sure that the customer needs, the customer job is understood?
I think, look, if you ask us what is agile, I think the answer is it's having the customer at the heart of your process. Having that really, so I see Joe's clapping again, so I might not be completely off track here. So having that rapid feedback, slicing the elephant, really breaking down that big problem in smaller problems. Start with something which is manageable, which you can cope with, which your organization can digest. Also coming back to that funding question, right? To also make it financially digestible, but provide something meaningful early at low cost. And a lot of our solutions started on a shoestring, right? And show something to your customer, say, does that solve your problem? Does that excite you, right? And then being able to build up on that in, I think in layers by layers. Matt, what do you think about it?
Just to jump off that a little bit. So you mentioned in the discussion the minimum viable product, and I think that is vital to these sort of initiatives. With my lean manufacturing head on, the minimum viable product helps you fight overproduction. It makes sure that you don't build the wrong thing. The worst type of waste is to build something that no one wants. And this way you have a dialogue ongoing with your customers. Thank you. Oh, sorry. I should be paying more attention over there.
Thank you.
But you get an ongoing dialogue with your customer base who can guide you. Otherwise, you may imagine you know what the customer wants. The more enlightened people in the audience might ask the customer, but quite often they don't know. So when you do ask them, though, you'll end up with your competitor's feature list if you ask them what it needs to do, right? So quite often the best way to get this sort of feedback is to give them the minimum viable product, use it for a while, and then elicit that feedback from them.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. But another question: if I look at Sulzer's long history, you've got an installed base that is huge. You've got a lot of products out of the completely other period. That gives more complexity. Well, if you look at how to manage complexity and what Joe told us, how would that work with such a installed base?
It's a good question. We do have a variety of different solutions out there from our traditional business, but they do have the same core needs, the same core attributes. You care about efficiency, you care about reliability, you care about throughput, and it's in different amounts depending on the industry you're working in. So it's a case of tailoring the solution to what the customer's need is really.
And just one thought here. So once again, it's hooking into what's already there, right? So for example, the first case we discussed, which is the Blue Box solution, we're hooking into SCADAs and PLCs of our customers. And the second case we discussed, which is Sulzer Sensors, simply providing a small hardware piece that can easily be retrofitted into virtually any rotating equipment, mainly in that case pumps.
Okay, thank you. Jörg, I mean, you're working with traditional companies out. You build concepts with them how to get into the today's world, the digital, the data world, and what are the roadblocks? I mean, now we've got our minds completely open from the traditional business we have here, machine builder business, for instance, we have here in Europe, to Joe's world at Tesla. So if you look into that, into our world here in Central Europe, what roadblocks are there? You say they could be moved.
Yeah, I mean, I like to talk about the roadblocks, but also about the solutions, how to overcome them. And, you know, never go there and start talking about agile. Then you can walk out the building and close the door behind you. So what I would do is really start talking about what is value for your customer and who is your customer. The first question is, who is the customer? Often it may be an internal customer or an external one or a partner, an intermediary or something like that. And then when we know that, next question, what is the value and how can we help that guy by data? And then of course, the methodology agile is just a means to achieve it. And by the way, not always agile or iterative design thinking is the right tool. I'm fond of iterations. I'm a fan of iterations, but if you have a hammer, every problem is a nail. And we shouldn't apply agile all the time. There are sometimes cases you can go on straightforward waterfall. But often, of course, agile is good. There is a methodology why we and when we do it. But then afterwards, if you have done that, the process just goes on naturally.
If you would go to your industrial customer and say, hey, we're going to make 60 different nails tomorrow, what would they say?
Well, I wouldn't do that. I would never say that. I would say, let's tackle one after the other. Yeah. Not 60 at once.
Yeah.
I think there is also something called a hybrid model. That same as, for example, in our project, we say we do the development rather agile, because at the development phase in the beginning, we don't know where exactly we will end up. But once we have completed that, we know exactly how to structure the production. And the production is then a straight waterfall. So we don't have one system for all. We pick and choose a little bit. And sometimes we say we skip development completely and we do an agile production because it's not such a big project. We just go there with our experienced guys and they do freestyle.
Joe, what do you think about that concept, to having both concepts together?
Well, pace of innovation is the only thing that matters in the long run. So what effectively reduces our iteration while ramping up is innovation. For most companies around the world, a hybrid model would be an enormous step towards more innovation per iteration and short iterations. Now, ultimately, there's some point at which that would run out. So if we take it to the limit, to what the laws of physics ultimately could allow, after we've solved the people problems, after we've solved the software problems, after we've done the hard work, the hardcore engineering to take it to the limit, then any artificial cadence is less efficient than ultimately what physics allows in terms of cadence, right? So any methodology on top would be a form of waste. However, let's be pragmatic. For almost every company in the world, any reduction in budget cycle length, any reduction in new product introduction length, so a hybrid model, for example, would be brilliant and potentially might save the company and allow it to live until the 2030s.
Okay, thank you. And the pace of innovation, you said, I mean, probably have to make one step back and ask ourselves, what do we want to achieve? And what we want to achieve is we want to be ahead of a competition in a way. Probably we don't have to look at the competition. We can go into a blue ocean, but we want to be ahead. So it is not a question of which system it is. It is important that we have the pace of innovation and are ahead. Now, coming back to the customer, and with you already, we talked about the happiness of our own people. And now we have heard also from Jörg, the customer. The customer here to do his job, and he has to have a use. How do we make customers really happy? I mean, this is a question everyone wants to know inside here, because that's a success question.
Well, I think customers do not only need great product and great service, but they need to have happy employees. Because like, you know, the behaviors of the employees have a huge impact on the customers. Like you said, the service profit chain. Happy employees will do great service, and then, you know, with a great service, there is happy customers, and when the customers are happy, they are loyal, they come back, and then they buy again your product and your services. So there is the profit and growth from the company, and then it's kind of a circle as well, because if the company is doing well, if it's a happy company, then, you know, the employees feel good and feel empowered as well in this company. So I think the service profit chain is very important way to see how to make customers happy, because it's definitely happy employees, happy customers, happy company, happy employees, happy customers, happy employees. It's really a chain.
It sounds like speed too. So can you increase the pace of innovation with that?
Well, we know that a lot of studies will prove that happy employees are more creative. So for sure, they will innovate much better. So for sure, you know, if your employees are happy,
If we
yes,
want to
you can
have
increase.
60 new pieces in our production every day. So anyway, we need happy people. Great. Now, vielleicht habt ihr eine Frage jetzt. Sie können sie auch auf Deutsch stellen, das ist kein Problem. Wir werden sie dann auf Englisch einschleusen oder Französisch. Ja, vielleicht ist eine Frage aus eurer Runde. Wir haben ja hier, we had we have a crazy, interesting benchmark. He came in with Joe and Tesla, and I think that stretches a bit the room where we are thinking in. Yeah, I don't know. Fragen von eurer Seite mal. Ich weiß, es ist natürlich, it's a heavy load. Yeah. A question for Aurélie.
Yes,
from the
regarding
audience.
happiness, because I think a lot of companies experienced due to COVID the new way of working, and how fantastic it works actually to be able to work from every place, you know, from home office and so on. And then that's my feeling, suddenly companies started to discover, oh, we have to take care of our employees and their well-being. So, but I think they stopped at well-being. They are not talking about happiness. They're talking about well-being, feeling good and being engaged, enabled, and so on. But happiness is really something which is, I think, pretty new to companies, you know, because it's something which comes more from our private life. How do you see that?
Yes, you're right. I think the pandemic made realize a lot of companies that they need to speak about well-being, mental health. But what they don't realize is that happiness is part of our well-being, and happiness is part of our mental health. So it is a very important topic that companies realize more and more that they need to speak about it. They need to make their employees happy, not only for the good results of their employees, but for themselves as well. Because if the employees are frustrated and not feeling good, well, they will be sick, they will be less creative, less engaged, and so on, like I said. So you are definitely right that companies started to realize that. And I think it's a good way, in a way. You know, we should have done it much earlier. So in a way, that's a good learning from the pandemic, in my opinion. But we have to pay attention when we speak about happiness in the workplace, because again, the topic of happiness can be seen as a cliche, and it's not about, you know, making people happy like this by just, you know, having fun and playing Fußballtisch thing and, you know, having fruit and stuff. It's not about that. I hope I really make it clear today. It is a serious topic, and there is a whole strategy to really bring more happiness in the workplace. So. But it's good. We are starting to speak about it much more. It's all about awareness, right? It's again going back to this awareness and making people realize it is important for yourself as an individual, but for the team and the company as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Another question from the audience? Yeah, Urs?
Another question to Aurélie.
Well, I'm the only woman, so I take the advantage, okay?
In the working environment, we usually talk about satisfaction or Mitarbeiterzufriedenheit in German. I was wondering, what's the difference between happiness and satisfaction?
So
Great question. Thanks.
yeah, it depends on the definition. It's like, tomato, tomato, potato, potato. Depending on the definition, you will find that satisfaction is more about rational things. Yeah, you are satisfied about your work, you have a good title, you have quite a good salary, you work for a good company. All of that is really satisfaction. And happiness is really on the emotional level. So that's really the big difference between satisfaction and happiness. But again, depending on the definitions you will find out there, it's quite same. But in my opinion, when I see all the experts speaking about it, there is quite a difference between on the emotional level. Happiness is something you really feel. And satisfaction, yeah, you can be satisfied with your job, but not really happy, not really feeling happy and feeling these positive emotions. In my opinion, that's a big difference.
I feel two very strong topics in here. One is agile and the other one is happiness. So I'd like to go along the happiness to Matt and Stefan and then to Jörg. One thing which makes us happy, which makes you happy from Sulzer, makes your customer happy. Oh no, that's a question at the end. If they give you data, at one point you said, a customer giving you the data. That was a hard job to achieve that. They're giving you data. So concerning customer happiness or whatever, what did you do? What do we have to do? Because this is the problem we always have, that the customers don't give us the data. So what is your recipe here?
I mean, it's no secret really. It's more how you treat the data. If you take that data, roll it up to a point and stab them in the eye with it, they're not going to give it to you again, right? So you have to be mature with how you use the data and use it to give them some value, not just value for yourself. And it's really about that.
And then I think that there are probably two main cases where we have to differ, right? One is where you already provide a smart product to your customer. So it's already having sensors on it. It's already connected, talks back home like ET. And you already have access to that data. So that is obviously more of a straightforward case where you can then simply start to exploit the data. You just have to make sure that all the contractual and legal frameworks are in place, that you're actually allowed to use the data and your customer is consenting. That's a critical enabler. The other one then is, let's say in our case, on the first case study, that you don't have primary access to that data. And you actually first need to connect to your customer's ecosystem. And then it's more of a customer by customer onboarding, where I think here it's really critical that you make clear what's the value that you can generate with that data that the customer can't, because you have the knowledge or you have the resources or you have the algorithms. I very strongly believe that in the industry, we're already competing not only over products and services, but over algorithms, superiority of algorithms. And then it is, I think, really important that, as Matt said, you don't use it, let's say, in warranty cases to, for example, show that the customer was wrongly using the product. I mean, that is a customer that will never give you the data again.
Thanks, Jörg.
I mean, both Stefan and Matt said, give them value. Now, what is value? And here I want to hook on Aurélie. We have a theory of value in service engineering, and there is 4 components of value. I don't enumerate all of them, but one is functional financial, and the other is emotional social value. And you need to give them both, depending on whom you talk to. An operations manager may have stressful nights because the factory is down. So give that person the value of less stress plus a functioning factory. You always need to consider that. And if you only give functional value, you won't sell the service and you won't get the data.
Thanks, Jörg. Joe, you listened to that. What are your comments?
Especially in the era of machine learning, data is education. And if you have an opportunity to hire an employee base or attract a customer base with a higher level of complementary, directly usable education, that's a phenomenal accelerator for you and your company. Well, that's what you're acquiring. You're acquiring phenomenal education for your machine learning algorithms. algorithms are a powerful differentiator in my perspective as well. I completely agree with what I heard. Thank you. And how they become so sharp is their training data. Now, just to be practical, a mass problem right now is not having enough data. Many of the devices are connected. Many of the devices do have sensors. A problem right now is making intelligent labeling. What am I even seeing? Is the data, can I make it clean so I understand what's there, what's being represented? And then are my algorithms learning to make intelligent decisions based on that data? I would actually say that is what I was trying to describe when I say digital self-management. Then if I may say something about happiness, the early Musk companies were famous. We call them burnout factories. People would join in their 20s and then drop out sometimes less than a year later. Sometimes they'd make it 4 years, but they'd be a husk of themselves afterwards. It was like boot camp every day, or like the most intense times of physical training every day, and mentally as well. That's not the case anymore. And a large part of why is from learning what Orly has been trying to teach the world through her business, is it's got to be playful. It's got to be relaxing. I mean, pro athletes understand you can stress and strain an incredibly hard amount as long as you know when you're going to be able to relax afterwards. But if you randomly subject someone to severe, intense stress and strain without a rhythm, that's what's called an arrhythmia. That's what makes people die. That is one definition of what aging is. So having these set relax cycles across your customer base and your employee base is super useful. You know, I'm very lucky. I actually worked with Orly before. It's wonderful to see you again, Orly, doing
Likewise.
the gateway, the introduction to agility called Scrum, which isn't even really agile yet. But what it does do is it creates a cadence of these strong stressors and then relax cycles. We call those sprints. You don't actually need those later, but you begin with those. And Orly knows all about that. We developed those with companies all around Europe. This is why Giga Bradenburg opened with a dance party, a rave party that went way into the night. I don't know how many of you were there. I don't know how many of you watched it online or parts of it, but they had 10-meter tall inflatable puppets dancing with lasers and smoke to thumping dance music. This was not just to be funny or to get likes on Instagram. This is because the work is so hard to launch a factory faster than a factory has ever been launched before anywhere in the world, even through EU regulation. And the timeline from that factory has never been, it's completely unprecedented globally, and through EU regulation. The hard work to make that happen. Well, so you have a blowout party, but on a cadence. When I was in the Tesla factory, people would hand out popsicles. Maybe that sounds too silly, but there was a constant playfulness. So you'd have these relaxed cycles because you were working as hard as you ever had in your life on anything every day.
Thanks, Joe. Now I get a message from Twitter here. It's from Elon Musk. He writes, Renee, I'd like that you take over Tesla with your team you have on stage. And please ask them who is going to take what role. I feel this will be a great leadership team. They shall start tomorrow. Is that okay? Can I answer okay? Okay? Okay. Thanks, Elon. It's okay. I will let you know who is going to take which role. So you're included, Joe, certainly. And you are going to think about now which role you're going to take. It's a serious game here. And tomorrow the airplane, I maybe have to catch the plane then in 2 hours. We will manage that. So, but you think about that. What will your role be? Do you have another question in here? One short question? Dan, it would be a good idea to ask this question. If not, we have a countdown. We have a countdown from 10, and you are thinking about It's not easy. And I think about my role too. I have to think about my role too, because I'm included. We have no managers. That is unfair. Don't think about that. What is your role? Okay, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. We launched the rocket to be a world leader with digital services. That's what we're gonna do. 3, 2, 1. Who wants to start? What is your role at Tesla?
I'm an operations guy at heart, so I want to work in the factory.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Good.
Value creation officer.
Ah, good.
So the chief happiness officer role is obviously taken already.
Probably not. We don't know.
You don't know
We don't
yet.
know.
So I'm guessing go with something I'm really passionate about is data and analytics. I say in that.
Ladies first. I would probably bring the coffee for all.
Yeah, we did it for happiness. Yeah. And now everybody wants to know already, probably.
Well, I am already now a chief happiness officer, so let me choose another role. I will call it now maybe more a positive culture director.
Great. Great things. Joe, and you?
Luxury officer.
Oh, that's great. And me, I'm the observer officer. I observed the whole thing and tried to make, to move it to Europe, a bit of that. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to be the next leaders with digital services. We're gonna make that. Thank you very much for your participation. Thanks to Joe from Hawaii, it was a great thing with you. Thanks to the great people on here. And you get a little present. Thanks. And Joe gives us a little present and a slide view over Hawaii. That's great. That's always like Joe. Ladies and gentlemen, we are coming to an end and we have something to drink and to eat. Joe, you're invited next time. We're gonna manage that. Thank you very much for your participation. See you next time when we have our session. Thank you very much and bye-bye.